Transaction coordination. Always get questions about this. I talk to people all the time. Why do I need a transaction coordinator? Isn't that what the title company does? Well, no. The title company's job is to search public record and make sure that when the title conveys, right, or when the title transfers from one person to the other across the table, that there's no encumbrances, no liens against it, no mortgages, nobody that might have a right to come back later and say, hey, I was an owner of this property. So that's what the title company's job is. Now, what does a transaction coordinator do? Well, if you don't have a transaction coordinator, and I didn't for a lot of years, I thought I was so smart, I was gonna be the wholesaler and the transaction coordinator because I didn't want to spend any money. And what I would spend my days doing is getting emails from my title company that says, hey, you need to track this person down and make sure that they come to closing and sign. Or, hey, is this seller divorced? I don't know. So I would stop what I was doing, go back to the office, call the seller. Hey, Mr. Smith, are you divorced? Because Mrs. Smith was on the deed and it's you and Mr. and Mrs. Smith and now it's just you. No, I'm married. I'm like, okay, great. Go back to the title company, go back to them and like, hey, no, he's still married. Oh, great. Well, make sure you tell him that she's got to be there for closing. Okay. Now I got to go back and call him and Mr. Smith, make sure that she's going to be there for closing. Okay, great. Or no, she's in Wisconsin. Back to the title company. Hey, we got a problem. She's going to be in Wisconsin. Oh, no problem. Well, we'll send a notary to her. Just make sure you let them know. Mr. Smith, so this is what the transaction coordinator does. It's all that back and forth stuff. Sometimes I go to Mr. Smith and I say, hey, title company wanted to know if you were married because you both didn't sign the contract. No, I'm divorced. Okay, great. No, he's divorced. And they're like, oh, thought I was done. Oh, well, was he divorced before or after he bought the property? I don't know. Hey, Mr. Smith, were you divorced before or after you bought the property? No, I threw that out last year. Great. So after you bought the property. All right, cool. Back to the title company. No, he's definitely divorced and she's out. And they're like, oh, well, we need a copy of the divorce decree. I'm like, you got to be me. Hey, Mr. Smith, I need a copy of the divorce decree. Oh, I don't have that. You're going to have to call the attorney to get a copy of it or go online and get it. This is the stuff that the transaction coordinator does. It's all that in-between stuff. The title company just tells you what's required. It's not their job to go out and collect paperwork for you. The title company will say, hey, maybe we can avoid probate here if you can get the death certificate, a copy of the obituary, and, get all the heirs to sign. Well, great. Like the title company's not going to coordinate that for you. That's what the transaction coordinator does. And that's just kind of a small scope of some of the wacky things that we do at Easy REI Closings for our clients, and we handle some of the biggest wholesalers and investors in the country, people who are doing maybe 2 deals a month, and I've got some clients who upload 40 files a month. So we handle kind of the whole gamut. But, we have 16 coordinators in the office right now, and all they do every day is solve problems for our investors. And, what that does is now all of that back and forth, the phone calls, the running around town, trying to track down documents, now our clients don't have to do all of that. So David, why are your clients some of the most successful in the country? Well, because they're focused on their business. They're not focused on all the minutia, all of the paperwork, which honestly, we suck at. I'm that guy. I'm a wholesaler. I'm terrible at doing paperwork. I just happen to own the company. Wholesalers, all of us investors, we're like talking mother. That's not our area of greatness. We want to be out helping people, talking to people on the phone, visiting people, not doing paperwork, right? I did not get into this business to become a paperwork expert, or understand what a monument of title is, or any of the crazy title terms that pop up. I wanted to be out there focused on talking to my next seller, taking that contract, making sure that I was selling it to an investor for the highest amount possible. A funny thing happened. I operated for probably a good 7 or 8 years where I was trying to do everything. And what I realized is there's like really this ceiling of the number of deals that you can do in a month, because literally you're juggling, 15 flaming bowling ball pins at one time. You can only keep so many up in the air. There was a point where I hired a transaction coordinator. The first one I hired, she actually got sick, couldn't stay. Second one I hired, who's absolutely amazing and really runs our company today. Once I turned everything over to her, a really weird thing happened. It didn't occupy my brain anymore. I was able to just let go and do the thing that she's amazing at, because her personality is different from mine, right? Her personality loves paperwork and details and spreadsheets and all that type of stuff. And mine, I'm the most disorganized that there is. I just want to be out cutting deals and doing fun stuff. What happened was all of a sudden my business started growing till we doubled and tripled our revenue as a nationwide wholesaler. And when I look back, the thing that I realized was, well, all of a sudden I wasn't wasn't worried about, hey, did Joe show up for his closing? Hey, did we find this death certificate? I was completely removed from all that. And I had one person who really was specializing in it. That was her whole job, was making sure that these closings happened. And funny thing, one day I walked into her, it's now our podcast room, but where her office was as a transaction coordinator. And I'm like, Heather, what is this $23,000 that closed? What's that from? She's like, well, dummy, that's that deal you sold like 3 weeks ago. And I'm like, oh, like I had forgotten completely about that. At that time, I just handled the dispositions part of our business. I was pouring into my team. I was out there with them. I was on the phone. I was making sure our marketing was good. We had VAs posting our deals. I was just really just hyper focused on the part of the business that I loved and not the part that was just like, oh, God, I felt like it was walking through quicksand. That's what a good transaction coordinator does, right? Who wants to scale and grow? Like if you're cool with doing one deal every 2 months, awesome. You don't need a transaction coordinator. If you're looking to go from that 2 or 3 deals a month to 5, 6, 10 deals a month, then you've got to be able to go from hustler to CEO. You've got to be able to go from that hustler to a business owner. And you're going to have to be able to take some things and either hire somebody new to do it or outsource it. You can't be running your own PPC and checking Google AdWords 3 times a day, dealing with direct mail company and running your acquisitions and running your dispositions and doing your TC work, right? If there's a biggest flaw that I see in our industry, it's that for some reason, this hustle mentality we've created, people think that they have to do every single thing themselves. And that's not the reality. That's not how the most successful people run their companies, not inside or outside of real estate. Steve Jobs was not down there making sure that the iPads were packaged correctly. Elon Musk is not down there, screwing in lens covers on his Tesla, right? Bezos is not making sure that the baked beans are on the right spot in the rack at his Amazon facilities, right? You have to be able to trust and outsource people. So you want to scale your business, then you've got to be able to have other people help you, right? Because you can't do it yourself, right? It takes a village to run a big company. So you can certainly hire your own TC. And what I tell people, like clearly you can hire your own. You don't have to hire us at Easy REI Closings. But if you don't know a lot about transactions and the legal side of this business, then how are you going to train somebody? Does that make sense? Luckily, through 7 or 8 years of trial and error, I did know a lot and I hired a great person. But typically our investors out there will default to, well, I'll just hire an ex-title agent. Well, sure, if you've got $60 or $70 or $80,000, but most people can't afford to spend that for a transaction coordinator. Or maybe I'll just get a good realtor. Well, if they were a good realtor, they'd still be a realtor. Either way, you're going to have to put out a bunch of Indeed ads. You're going to go through that struggle, bringing people in for interviews. People don't show. Once you interview a bunch of people, you've got to decide and make an offer to somebody. Hopefully they accept and haven't taken another job. That's a whole nother problem that we've had of waiting too long to make offers in the past. But then, now great, you've hired a transaction coordinator. Well, now you got to train them. Right? Like they've got to get trained. Sort of the misnomer about TC work is it's just a checklist. I'm going to call the seller. I'm going to collect this document. The problem with the checklist idea is there's like 50 types of deals that there could be. And some of them kind of get mixed, right? There's a wholesale deal, but then there's deals with probate where there's dead people and foreclosures and bankruptcies, or maybe it's a subject to deal where you're taking over a mortgage and you have to have all the disclosures, or, it's a novation or whatever, right? There's just a lot of different types of deals. So you've got to be able to train that person to run your business and to understand, when all of those deals come in, how to navigate them and make sure that they get them closed, because that's the job of a TC, is close the deal, right? So if they don't understand how to do that, then you're right? And the worst thing that can happen to you is you hire a transaction coordinator and you think they're good, but they keep coming to you and they're like, hey, Joe, man, couldn't close that deal, man. Just, whatever it was, just title company said couldn't close it, because they don't understand how to ask the right questions and how to get stuff done. You can do all those things, Indeed, interviews, offer letters, hiring, payroll taxes. Like you can come to us, the experts in the field, let us do it for you. So why would I trust you guys? Well, I can tell you some of the biggest names in the industry trust us. We've done over $165 million worth of transactions, over 2,500 files. So, there's nothing that a client uploads to us that typically we haven't seen. We're sort of like the Matrix. Like we see your problems coming in very slow motion because we see them over and over and over again. It's There's nothing new under the sun. So, if you're looking to really scale up and grow, we specialize in taking those companies that are doing 1, 2, 3 deals a month and getting them up to, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 deals. And we don't do it through coaching, right? Like, we're not that. But what we do is by taking all of that paperwork and stuff off our plate, again, it just allows you, like it did me, to really focus on growing your business, right? So we're giving you that 30% of time to make sure that your acquisitions is good, make sure your dispositions is good, and really growing your company. So that's a little bit about, transaction coordinators and kind of what they do, how they're different from title companies. They're not the same thing. People confuse that an awful lot. If we can help you scale your business, go to Easy REI Closings. You'll see a little video of me, and underneath there is a blue button that says book a call. Book a call with me and my team, and let's talk about what's going on with your company and how we can help you grow in 2024.